What's up, flappers? Welcome to another video, and today, boy oh boy, do I have a video for you. And as you can see from the title thumbnail, we're talking about Dendro today. And as you guys know, I don't consume any leaks. However, for some reason, I've had my fair share of accurate guesses, air quote guesses, as some of you guys think I look at leaks. But I think at this point, nobody really knows what's going on with Dendro. So if I get this one right, people, hey. You guys might start accusing me of working for MiHoYo or something like that, but I'll take it as a compliment, I guess. So with the topic of Dendro, we have to touch on a couple of things here, right? Its reactions, its resonance, its role in the game, and, the purpose of even adding an additional element. And while I know Dendro was announced, I think way back now, it's been probably like a year or so, but I can't help to think that along the way, MiHoYo has made alterations and changes and maybe even completely revamped the thing for what the game really needs Dendro to be, alright? And with that said, let's start right at the beginning with its potential reactions. Now, we all know in the game there's transformative reactions and there's amplifying reactions. Also transformative, superconduct, right? Overload, whatnot, all that stuff. And amplifying is just melt and vaporize. The good ones, as people like to say. But transformative does have freeze, so they do have that going for them. Resonance as well, right? Let's talk about resonance too. What is the Dendro resonance going to do? Is it like a raw stat boost like pyro resonance or the cryo resonance, or is it going to be something a little more unique to the characteristics of Dendro? So something like the geo resonance. Now here we can kind of separate the resonance to like offensive, defensive, or utility, right? Essentially it's always one of these three. And then the role of Dendro. Is it supposed to bring about a new meta, a new playstyle? Is it supposed to overthrow a lot of the old options? Is it going to facilitate older options to make them even better? Now, while we don't know a lot about Dendro, there are certainly things about Dendro right now that are in-game which we do know about. So, with all that said, like, subscribe, tune into my live streams. I'm actually going to be going live really soon from the upload of this video, maybe in an hour or two. I think I'm going to be live right here on YouTube, gonna be doing some account reviews and pulling for the Zhao giveaway winner. That's going to be exciting, so maybe stop by to see how I do my giveaways. So with reactions, right, we have the burning reaction already in game. I believe that's the only Dendro reaction that we currently have, and it's a damage over time reaction. So there's something I am curious about the burning reaction though. Just because it's currently in the game doesn't mean MiHoYo cannot adjust it further. But knowing MiHoYo, most likely they're just going to tune with the scaling numbers. So some future Dendro character is going to facilitate the burning reaction and allow probably like 7,000 damage per tick, and it ticks 7 to 10 or 15 times. And with constellations, maybe it'll tick twice per tick. I don't know, right? I'm just guessing here, but the burning reaction is definitely something interesting, and we can talk a little bit more about this a little later because I just want to flesh out a little more of the possibilities here. I don't want to go too in depth just guessing here about the reactions, but there's one thing a lot of people are also banking on, and that is the Electro and Dendro reaction that we have to talk about, because Electro is currently slightly problematic. It's a problematic element which struggles with finding its own identity oftentimes, and even strong Electro characters like the Raiden Shogun don't actually give a damn about themselves being Electro. They just have such huge scaling, and with constellations shredding enemy defense, you really don't see Raiden Shogun relying on Electro reactions to be strong. It's literally just her, and she just happens to be Electro, right? So people who think Electro is 100% fine the way it is has a high chance of also thinking that Amber is probably A tier right next to Ito on their personal tier list or something like that, right? As I've talked with a couple of people about this, some interesting ideas actually has popped up, most of which points to Dendro being a fix to the Electro element. So they're going to really lean on the Dendro Electro reaction here to facilitate Electro reactions going forward. Now, I don't want this to be me saying that Electro is going to have to rely on Dendro as a crutch going forward. I just think MiHoYo wants to flesh out the possibilities of the Dendro Electro going forward, because remember, Electro Dendro is just one reaction and you can't rely on one reaction to fix an entire element, right? So there's the possibility of Dendro Electro being one of a couple things. One is, of course, to have it be an amplifying reaction, which is capped by ICD. So the characters with innate high scaling such as Raiden doesn't become so broken to the point where MiHoYo's Balan team just all spontaneously combust, right? With an amplifying reaction such as Melt or Vaporize and gated by ICD, this could be the thing Electro characters needed to hit harder and compete with some of these other amplifying reactions. But that's just the lazy man's way of doing it. You can actually help facilitate Electro units' strength without it being an amplifying reaction. Well, how about that? A creative solution that leans into Electro's only current strength without making it boring for the player base. Now, what could that be? Because as you guys may all know, Electro characters are jacked beyond belief. Their stats oftentimes have to be much higher than other characters because of their lack of reactions. So I'm talking about DPS, right? I'm not talking about the supports. But generally, Electro DPS units, they just have higher base stats to compensate for the lack of a strong reaction, and even sometimes in their skills they have high scaling. I mean, look at Hyper Carry Raiden, right? That's a great example of a character who literally doesn't care about reactions. All they care about are their own stats and team buffing to allow them to do more damage. And for Dendro Electro reaction, they could continuously lean into either self-buffing or debuffing for enemies. Now, the type of debuffing, I don't want to get too into detail. It's just one of these two can really send Electro characters right up to the top, along with freeze options as well as melt, vaporize, and certain hyper mono carry teams as well. Now, the problem with buffing is that if you continuously buff Electro units through Electro reactions, characters like Raiden Shogun just benefits too much. Currently, already with Raiden Hyper Carry, she is really by far, I feel like the most broken unit in the game. But the alternative is a debuff for the enemies, and a lot of Raiden's strength does come from her ignoring a lot of the enemy's defense. So a debuff for the enemies could in turn help a lot of the other Electro units, but doesn't push Raiden so far and above because she was already ignoring a lot of the enemy's defense, and more percentages is gaining stats at a loss for someone like Raiden, which is a good fix. So that's going to be that for the Electro reaction, because this is not an Electro video with Dendro. This is a Dendro video. Like I said, we were talking about the burning reaction, which is currently the only one in the game. But what about potential utility reactions, right? So for example, one that I think a lot of people can have some sort of idea about is the Dendro Hydro reaction, right? I don't know why, but there's just something about it that makes me think that it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, we can all think on the top of our heads of the potential for Dendro and Hydro, but it's difficult to put a finger on exactly what it is. Or is that just me? I think there's going to be opportunities here for a great new utility reaction that we have yet to see, and that has got me really excited, looking forward to Dendro. Finally, I just want to touch a little bit about Dendro characters and their potential design, right? Will the first Dendro unit come prior to Sumeru's release, just like Kazuha did for Inazuma? And also, will they be as broken as Kazuha currently is, right? So here's the thing we have to think about though. The character's design likely will revolve around what reaction they lean towards. For example, Hu Tao is Pyro, but she utilizes Vaporize more than Melt, and certainly more than Overload, and she has Pyro Infusion, right? So for Dendro characters, what are we looking at exactly, right? A character that we can currently try and evaluate is Baiju, and I'm just gonna say it, guys, I have no clue as to how this character is going to work. Is he going to be a DPS, a support? Maybe he's gonna be a healer, since the whole pharmaceutical thing, right? What will Dendro Infusion look like? Will Dendro Infusion take advantage of something like burning to apply damage over time, and then they can switch out? So will all Dendro characters have the ability to layer damage for the main DPS? That's very interesting, because look at what characters have value, right? Xingqiu, Fischl, Albedo, Ayaka, Ganyu. A lot of these characters are able to have influence on field even when the character themselves are not on field. Their skills exist outside of their presence on field, which for burning, it could be a great reaction to facilitate additional damage while the characters responsible for that damage are not even on field. And as bosses continue to get more and more tanky, damage over time could be the solution for a lot of free-to-play players. So people, make sure to build some great burning candidates for your team rosters. Now here is a question for you guys. Will Dendro power creep the game? Or maybe will MiHoYo design the game to prepare for Dendro's release? Like I was saying, bosses getting tankier and tankier, and amplifying reactions while strong just sometimes feel like, for free-to-play, it's difficult to access their full potential, as a lot of the power could also be locked behind characters' constellations. So will Dendro usher in a new meta where it becomes increasingly more difficult to clear content without Dendro reactions? Is MiHoYo going to incentivize Dendro by building content around the need for something like burning, or for something like a utility Dendro reaction to counter a buff that the enemy has? Another interesting concept is that Inazuma required the Electro element to deal with a lot of the puzzles. And now I find it difficult for MiHoYo to do the same with Dendro and Sumeru, as most people won't have a Dendro unit to rely on for puzzles, unless MiHoYo is going to throw one out for us for free, which if they want to continue down the line with designing puzzles around the thematic element of the region, they probably are going to have to do so. So finally, to wrap it all together, whether it be reactions, resonance, its role, Dendro is shrouded in mystery currently, and I am dying to find out a little more about this through in-game means. Hopefully MiHoYo teases Dendro a little more as we approach Sumeru, and maybe release a smaller region for us to explore and kind of get to the lore and the golden nugget bit about Dendro, right? What do you guys think? I'm gonna be going live here really soon, in about I would say around an hour or so. Comment down below here and tune in, catch my stream, see what's going on, and I'll see you guys there. All right, until then, urge y'all to stay safe and peace.